everyone, welcome to a new series for the Filipino-Australian Lawyers Association podcast. Today we are honored to have the newly appointed Philippine Consul General to Melbourne, Jesus Gary S. Domingo, for today's podcast series episode. This new series was inspired by Congen himself to discuss broader topics in the aim of fostering greater awareness on significant legal issues in the Filipino-Australian diaspora and highlight the importance of Filipino-Australian legal relations in the process. We acknowledge the important role of the Philippine Consulate General in Melbourne for supporting the overall Filipino community and being a key stakeholder for FALAW's initiatives such as this podcast. So thank you, Congen, for supporting this podcast. So in this episode, we hope to share the background of Congen Gary to becoming the current Philippine Consul General to Melbourne, discuss significant legal issues in the community, and emphasize FALAW's assistance for these issues. So firstly po, could you share us po your background and your pathway to your role as the current Philippine Consul General and what made you pursue a career in foreign service?
Okay. Magandang gabi, Dianne, and our friends from FALAW, and ating mga mahal na kababayan sa Victoria, and whoever's listening across Australia and the world, and of course our Aussie friends. So my name is Jesus Domingo. My nickname is Gary. So actually, I'm a second-generation diplomatic brat. My dad was in the Foreign Service. His postings were in Seattle, San Francisco, Bonn, Germany, Honolulu, Hawaii, and Bandar Seri Begawan, Brunei. So I grew up there. But most people think because of my dad was in the Foreign Service, I wanted to join the Foreign Service and the diplomacy. But actually the opposite. Although, it was fun, it was educational, earlier I didn't really like moving around and I just wanted to settle down. But my initial career path is I wanted to go to the Philippine Military Academy. And I had an opportunity to go into showbiz, but that all changed after assassination of Ninoy Aquino. Then my parents said, "Oh, you better go back to the U.S. and study." So then I took foreign service. Then actually, initially, I was thinking of going into politics. So I went to law school. But then, in fact, a lot of my schoolmates, my year, a year ahead, year below, they're in the headlines now in the Philippines. I won't say whom, but they represent the range of views and in the Philippine political spectrum. But I thought, well, it looks like there are so many bright, young, talented lawyers and future politicians. So I thought maybe I can better serve the country. So, I grew up overseas, but, deep down, I ultimately felt I'm Filipino. So I wanted to help serve the Philippines. But I thought that politics and legal practice is great, but I felt that maybe my calling somewhere else. So I took the Foreign Service exam. Luckily, I passed. And my postings were to the Philippine mission to the UN in New York, then the Philippine Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Then went home. Then got posting Philippine mission to the UN in Geneva. Went home, went out to become the Philippine ambassador to New Zealand, went home, became Undersecretary or Deputy Minister for Civilian Security and Consular Affairs. Then throughout my career, I was always working closely with the Filipino communities, and I was always taking good note as where we excelled and where we are challenged, and how it reflects on the Philippines itself back home. And my conclusion, you'll have to wait for my book for my conclusions, but I've felt that the diaspora has a very significant role in uplifting the Philippines back home, but also it demonstrates that I believe as a people, we have a purpose to advance not just our own country, but the world through our people, our talents, such as yourself, Dianne, a future lawyer, and the members of FALAW. So I think the nature of our country, it's not so much about the country, but about our people. And I think, but in looking at all the places around the world where there is the diaspora, I've never been to Melbourne
Mhm.
before I got posted here
Mhm.
last July.
Mhm.
I felt that the Filipino community in Melbourne, in
Mhm.
Victoria,
Mhm.
has the greatest potential
Mhm.
to truly excel for two things. There's such a concentration of talent, and
Mhm.
Melbourne, Victoria, well, Australia in general, but particularly Victoria, is the most one of the most, if not the most welcoming environment for Filipinos.
Mhm.
So I've always been looking to see how we succeed, where we're challenged throughout my career. But I saw that so it's like, in a way, it's like my growing up and my career was kind of like a preparation for Melbourne. And
Mhm.
it's here. I would love to see how far we could take
Mhm.
the Filipino community, both Filipino Aussies
Mhm.
who are already citizens or dual citizens or new migrants or students, how we can really be a shining example for the whole Philippine nation, both back in the Philippines and around the world,
Mhm.
but for the whole globe.
Mhm.
And so that's how I approach things, is that it's kind of like a laboratory in a way
Mhm.
for success stories, for
Mhm.
templates, for inspiration.
Thank you for that po. As the current Consul General po to Melbourne, this year is an exciting year for the Filipino community because it's the 80th anniversary of diplomatic relations between
Yes.
Australia and the Philippines. So as the current Consul General po to Melbourne, could you share us po some highlights of this bilateral anniversary po this year?
Well, the 80th anniversary celebrates 8 decades of formal diplomatic relations.
Mhm.
But of course, we've had close partnerships with Aussies. I mean, they've been traveling to the Philippines for even way back, even
Mhm.
past centuries. But Aussie Aussie seamen, soldiers, and airmen also helped us out in the Second World War, particularly in the Battle of Leyte Gulf. Um, but formal diplomatic relations were, just around after World War II. And so, we began quite conventionally as conventional bilateral relations, but it's really blossomed into a beautiful partnership
Mhm.
spanning wide range of areas such as security, defense, education,
Mhm.
trade, mobility, and of course, it's really our jewel in the relationship is our thriving Filipino community, which is approaching 500,000 all
Mhm.
throughout Australia.
Mhm.
And we've really accelerated relations over the past year. So, well, here in Melbourne, for example, in light of our blossoming relations all over Australia, we reopened. Well, we've always had a consul in Melbourne
Melbourne.
covering Victoria, South Australia. Well, Victoria,
Mhm.
um, and we've had, but most of the time until 2020, they were honorary consuls. Though
Mhm.
we had a brief
Mhm.
residential, meaning somebody coming from Department of Foreign Affairs, back 70s or 80s, but that got closed. But we reopened in 2020. But before me, well, I had visitors, Consul General Odette. Um,
Mhm.
um,
Yep.
but before that, we had very hardworking, distinguished honorary consuls.
Mhm.
So, as a sign of the importance of Australian relations is that we also want to deepen a relationship with states, particularly Victoria. So I cover overall, or the Consulate General here in Melbourne covers Victoria, South Australia, and Tasmania, but we still have honorary consuls in Adelaide
Mhm.
and in Hobart. And well, His Excellency President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos himself visited Australia back in 2024. He had
Mhm.
the rare honor of addressing the Australian Parliament
Mhm.
in Canberra, but also he came here also in 2024 in
Mhm.
March to for the special summit, ASEAN Special Summit, held in Melbourne, and had the opportunity to meet with the Filipino community at Melbourne Town Hall.
Mhm.
So, by any chance, were you or other members of FALAW able to meet President Bongbong?
I think the previous committee po was able to go
Okay.
with the Filipino community event in the town hall. Yeah.
Okay. So now a very important agreement that we have is the 2024 strategic partnership. So it
Mm-hmm.
really crystallizes and shows how our relationship is matured. So it gave more substance, more structure,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately this is a legal document,
Mm-hmm.
the partnership agreement, and it enhances our cooperation in security,
Mm-hmm.
business economics, education,
Mm-hmm.
mobility and movement of people, and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that our relationship is durable and future oriented. Um, we see manifestations of this even before the agreement, but it's ongoing, deepening relationships, partnerships between universities and vocational educational training institutions,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, even before the agreement, many Filipinos were given the privilege by the Australian government, Australia Awards, to study
Mm-hmm.
in Melbourne and Victoria programs. And interestingly enough, Philippines has invested much more in Australia than the other way around. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, one of the
So there's a
biggest,
trade surplus po.
well, trade is one thing, but in terms of investment,
Oh, investment surplus.
yeah, investment, there was the Philippines established the Victoria International Container Terminal,
Mm, mm,
the Enrique Rizon Group.
mm,
And this is one of the biggest investments of the Philippines around the world. So this is, yeah, hundreds of million, well,
mhm, mhm.
and in billions of pesos investment.
Apa.
And you know that one of our biggest hotel chains, Hotel 101, is going to also establish a hotel in, I believe, in Flinders Street,
Mhm,
in Melbourne CBD. Of course, we've had very strong people-to-people ties,
mhm,
and we really benefit from the multicultural framework of
mhm,
Australia. And again, this is Australia, Melbourne, Victoria, one of the best homes,
mhm,
if not the best, for Filipinos. So yeah, our relationship, the 80th anniversary, of course, but all over Australia,
mhm,
our relations are fantastic. Of
mhm.
course, leading what we actually do would between our embassy in Canberra and the embassy in Australian embassy in
What the
Makati.
other way around po? What are the Australian opportunities in the Philippines
Well,
po?
we're trying to entice, of course. I think one time you should invite the representative of Department of Trade and Industry, who's based in Sydney.
Mhm,
But there's also significant investment,
mhm,
and one of the ones that more recent one was actually a South Australian paper company
mhm.
that's doing packaging, I believe, for Jollibee.
Oh,
Okay. And there's a lot of okay. There's also a lot. Our tourism and travel
mhm,
is blossoming,
mhm.
and well, there's of
Education
course,
po. Mhm,
yeah, and of course education,
mhm,
and hopefully we could see Australian universities
mhm,
establishing programs and campuses like
mhm,
they do in the rest of Southeast Asia. But
mhm,
what's also very interesting, it's not just the Commonwealth of Australia, Austrade,
mhm,
the federal agency. We also have a very strong and dynamic state level
mhm,
agencies promoting business relations, especially
mhm.
we call global
Global.
Victoria.
Apo. Apart from the 80th anniversary po this year marks opo, the Philippine ASEAN Chairmanship this year po.
Yes.
Could you share us more about the initiatives that the PCG has on this and the overall ASEAN-Australian relations po?
Okay. Well, glad you asked. So the overall theme of our chairman. So every year there's a theme. And our theme is navigating our future together. And if you see the special symbol, uh, the icon for our chairmanship is a balangay
Mm,
to our maritime route and navigating, going sailing throughout together.
mhm,
So, but we live in a VUCA uncertain world right
mhm,
now. So we want to, and also this will be the first full year that Timor-Leste, our 11th member, will be
mhm,
will be working with us.
mhm,
So we want to help guide ASEAN and our respective countries and peoples through these uncertainties by reinforcing what we call ASEAN centrality.
mhm,
So ASEAN centrality means that when the world wants to deal with Southeast Asia,
Mm.
they should really work with us, ASEAN as the organization. So meaning that we are the central
The consolidating
political,
group. Mm-hmm.
economic, and
Mm-hmm.
cultural organization entity,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is shepherding Southeast Asia. So
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the world should deal with us. So that's what I mean by centrality. But we also want to promote innovation, strengthen our resilience and inclusivity. And the work of ASEAN is along three pillars: political security, economic, and social cultural. So those three pillars towards the goal of having a stable, integrated, sustainable, and people-centered
Mm-hmm.
region. And Australia is one of our most substantive, important dialogue partners with a range of cooperation spanning regional security, economic integration, education, climate action, and development. So, really wielding the baton, of course, would be Amba Tony Morales in Canberra.
Mm-hmm.
But here, of course, we focus on activity on the state level of the states. So, well, we don't have all the ASEAN countries having live or
Mm-hmm.
honorary consulates here. So, but we have two career consulates general,
Mm-hmm.
Indonesia and Malaysia, and we have an honorary Thai consulate.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in consultation with them.
Mm-hmm.
But among the things we would like to do is we would really like to emphasize and leverage Melbourne's being the education capital of Australia and very much a global capital. So we want to work closely, particularly with you, with the youth.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at activities because at least with youth and students, we could get representatives from all 11 ASEAN countries.
Mm-hmm.
So we expect some maybe student activity.
Mm-hmm.
We're still mapping this out, so we'd like to meet with you and representatives from University of Melbourne, Deakin,
Mm-hmm.
and all the other universities here
Mm-hmm.
and around Victoria. And we hope to replicate also in South Australia and Tasmania.
Mm-hmm.
That would be covering all of ASEAN.
Mm-hmm.
But we also want to work very closely in special projects with the three other consulates. And one of them is to, since we're a very important program and thrust is mobility, meaning allowing workers and professionals to work back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
We're working with the professional organizations, and we're happy to work with the lawyers, but also, like, for example, the engineers.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know there's a credential called ASEAN Engineer?
Oh.
So basically, it's of course, engineers like lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
they have to pass professional examinations and are accredited in your jurisdiction. So an ASEAN engineer is basically an engineer from ASEAN who is accredited to all ASEAN countries. So we want to highlight what ASEAN engineer, who and what are ASEAN engineers, and how they contribute to the development of southeastern Australia. So I'm working closely with our engineering groups, such as the SAFEA, Society of Philippine Engineers, the individual engineering groups, electrical, civil, mechanical, and so forth. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, that's something I also like to propose to FALAW.
I think I've
If
heard of po, the ASEAN Legal Association. I've heard of that po.
yes, so definitely we could get. We'd like to assemble, and maybe we'll partner with FALAW in doing maybe some kind of seminar.
Mm-hmm.
And probably, of course, probably in cooperation with either the courts or the law schools
Mm-hmm.
or the legal practitioner groups to talk about ASEAN law.
Mm-hmm.
So we could discuss. And anyway, it's still January; it's still
Mm-hmm.
early. I mean, we have the whole year, so it could be on various aspects of law: criminal law, family law,
Mm-hmm.
or professional conduct,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So we hope to also do something fun, like ASEAN food,
Mm. More
maybe like
people to
a
people
big,
linkage. Yeah.
yeah. And of course, we have many great Filipino, Malaysian, Thai,
Mm.
Singapore, Vietnamese. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe some kind of food festival kind of a
Mm-hmm.
thing. Since
Mm-hmm.
again, Filipino food is very well established. Well, actually, again, Melbourne is a foodie capital.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of interesting ideas, but we definitely would like to collaborate with FALO on doing something with
Mm-hmm.
regards to law, legal practice, and the legal community.
Mhm. As the current Consul General to Melbourne, of course, And as the immediate DFA Undersecretary for Civilian Security and Consular Affairs, you've dealt with significant legal issues faced by the Filipino diaspora globally, not just in Filipino-Australian. So could you share us more about your thoughts, po, about these significant legal issues and the services provided by the PCG for this, and what you think FALAW's role would be for these following issues?
Okay.
Firstly, po, regarding international students and migration, the biggest significant legal issue, po.
Right. Okay. Well, first background is that we have a diaspora, meaning Filipinos all around the world, almost 11 million plus, and nearly 500,000 in Australia. So Australia overall is one of the safest, most empowering, wonderful homes for Filipinos. And the share of legal challenges for Filipinos is not, say, as challenging as regions such as, for example, the Middle East, where I had served. In fact, I wrote a thesis about legal assistance that the embassy provides to Filipinos in Saudi Arabia, but this was back in the early 2000s. So I was thinking of publishing it, but it's really overtaken. But anyway, so with that, but nevertheless, what are then the issues that we see? So basically, we have workplace vulnerability, and such issues cover underpayment, unsafe conditions, and employment related injuries. And recently, very tragically, a Filipino had died, but this was in New South Wales. But this knock on wood, it doesn't happen, but it could happen anywhere. Then there are overall student welfare and the risks to student welfare, including misinformation that they're given and exploitative arrangements when they come here, especially like the working arrangements. And essentially, that's, I think, pretty much what you could say happened with the student. So I think the Filipino who passed away, who in New South Wales was a student. So then third is family violence and crisis welfare cases. So and these are often linked to housing insecurity. We get to family law disputes, abusive spouse, and so on. Then fourth, we have immigration detention, removal. And the challenge is our access as consuls is subject to host country privacy laws and detainee consent, though generally that, we have the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic and Consular Relations, which should give us access. But again, there's still a lot of prerogative of the laws of the jurisdiction. Then finally, we have serious illness, death, accidents, fatalities, perhaps requiring repatriation. And this requires close coordination with the families and authorities. So as you know, over the New Year's, tragically, a student had died in a car, and relative died in a car accident earlier in the holidays. And finally, we got approval from Manila to send one of our officials to render assistance. So he'll be flying out tomorrow. But of course, this is what we call assistance to nationals, ATN. So the rest of our consular says, well, the more the less contentious assistance, like we issue and renew passports, issue visas for foreigners who need visas. Australians could pretty much come visa free. And we do notarials. We even perform marriages. So I've conducted 2, but you have to be, both parties have to be
Filipino citizens.
Filipino. And of course, related to that is also we register voters for overseas. So there's an advocacy. I think we should really get much more Filipinos to vote. We could really determine the outcome of future elections decisively. But sorry, now to go back then. So how the specific forms of assistance we give under ATN is So our concept is anchored on protection, prevention, and dignity. So that includes welfare checks in coordination with Australian authorities. Oh, but by the way, in terms of the, like serious injury, illness, death, and I have to also state also, well, kind of a subset of that are Filipinos who might be affected by our spate of fires,
Mm,
floods,
mm, mm,
force majeure. And
mhm.
so recently we did a welfare check to our kababayan in Lorne. Actually,
Mm.
it was a special treat. We got to drive the Great Ocean
The
Road.
roads.
Lorne is a very beautiful seaside town.
Mhm,
But buti na lang, well, good thing is the Filipino family was actually, they were working there as managers of a caravan camping site.
mhm,
It's a good thing they were not seriously injured or anything, but their
mhm,
house was damaged with the
mhm,
flooding,
mhm,
and they were relocated. We give referrals to housing,
mhm,
legal aid,
mhm,
medical, and social support services.
mhm,
Although many Filipinos are able to avail of these services by themselves, many, of course, would need our help or would like our endorsement.
mhm,
We assist with documentation and civil registry assistance and community education and preventive outreach. So it's in these areas that we really see a great potential in partnering with FALAW.
mhm,
Oh, also I forget also with our services, we also register births, marriages,
mhm,
and deaths, and again assist with
mhm,
repatriation of remains. Is a framework to really trying to boost
mhm.
education cooperation. But similarly, yeah, it's about education exchange and seeing where a whole range of issues, how we can help facilitate partnerships.